Hey, folks, in this interview, I have the opportunity to sit down with Elle Blount. She is a photographer and a strategist. We're going to find out what makes her tick. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Behind the Scene podcast. Today on the show, I have Elle Blount. Elle is a photographer. She has a pedigree, and it's a long list of accomplishments. We've talked about a lot of stuff that she does on my other podcasts. On this podcast, I wanted to get into her brain to talk about what makes her tick, like what drives her to need quality photography, and how does that relate to the other side of her brain, which is the strategy side and the strategist side. So Elle, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah,
Again.
Thank you for again. I know, this is great. I know you and I talked, and I was like, I gotta get her on because we got to talk about this sort of a deeper level into who you are and what you do from the context of photography. Last time we talked about photography a little bit, but we didn't talk about it, kind of into the mind of Elle. So take us in there. So, give us your origin story, your story where you're sitting down at a bar with somebody or a coffee shop and they say, "Who are you? What do you do?" What's your response?
I mean, I would say I'm a person that's a hybrid. I have a hybrid interest, and I feel like I do the things that bring me joy and happy and interest. And life is mercurial, it's not linear. And so hopefully those interests are able to come together. But right now, for the past 3 years, I've been working in strategy simultaneously while working in the photo world with outdoors and outdoor storytelling.
Wow, that's awesome. So that's what I want to dive into. So the outdoor storytelling side of the world, or side of your world, what does that look like? An outdoor storyteller. I mean, that could be in a million different things. That could be street photography. That could be portraiture, fashion. What does it mean to Elle?
For me, I just recognize that, I think a few years ago, we were having the same moment after Ferguson. And I always had wanted to buy a camera. I was in design school, I was in grad school, and I just couldn't find one in my price point. And so I was always doing things that were probably a little different from like my friends and my family, just black people that I knew that I grew up with, and just people I knew grew up with in general. I travel a lot. I was here and there, and so how can I bring people into my world and my experiences? Mm-hmm. And then I finally got a camera, and it really became moments of how can I just illuminate, there's a ton of power in visuals, and how can I illuminate a visual that makes me happy to see it and can show who I am and just show a positive representation of how you can be outside, and that it doesn't have to be just at a summit. And because I think in a way that's very colonial, if the only way you can go outside is to conquer something.
That's right. Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because that is, I hadn't even thought about it that way. That's absolutely right. It feels like, okay, you gotta go climb, El Capitan, or you gotta conquer this river, or go climb the Mount Fuji or something like that in order for you to feel like you're outdoors. But you don't necessarily have to. You just exist outside, right? So give me a day in the life of Elle existing outside. What does that look like?
I mean, it really depends. I recognize, I think starting in college, I just recognized I need a high activity level to be my best self. And so I started climbing in college. And then when I graduated, I just kept doing it. And I like to try new things. I didn't grow up as a person who got to try a ton of new things. So for me, it's just fun. And so that's it's just something that's really interesting of how can I touch and how can I try that? And I think that's just my personality and my nature, to be a person that's curious. And I think that's fed into my career. With the photo stuff, and how I'm outside, I mean, it really started by a happenstance. Like I had the camera, I bought it off a photographer here in the Bay Area when I was interning here, used. And then I just wanted to show, a, I wanted to show there's so much negative imagery of how, especially Black bodies are outside. And so like, and it's not positive. So like, how can I show me and what I'm doing? And because I just know people need to see it. There's just power in individuals. You want to see yourself represented. And I just feel like so much of how the outdoor industry was outside didn't really reflect how most people are outside. You don't have to have, if you think certain brands are like Nike, you have to be the most elite and most technical to be seen for them. But by and large, that's not most people. Even though I want to capture the badassness, like I also want to capture that whole other side of like what makes it fun to be there. And so, and for me, it's like, how can I also make it palatable to get more people to come with me? And if I'm showing the fun and the joy of it, it's a lot
That's
easier.
that is so interesting. I was speaking with another photographer earlier today, Elia Locardi, who's a fantastic photographer out of Florida, a travel photographer, and he said something very similar to you. He travels the world. He's in Japan, he's in Southeast Asia, he's in the Middle East, Europe, all over the place. And he was saying one of his driving forces to take photos is that he likes to preserve locations, like, and kind of remember things. Like he drew a circle, verbally around this place in Japan that since he took photos there had become inundated with tourists and is not the same anymore, right? And it reminds me, you remind me of that because you're kind of doing a similar thing where you're kind of exposing areas that to us that wouldn't have been exposed before, right? And showing, hey, that it can be done. You can go here. Like, what do you like from a day in a life standpoint when you're out there? Is it about the photography or is it about the experience or is it the same thing?
I think it's similar. To be honest, I feel like most of the places I'm showing, they've been shown.
Hmm.
They're just not showing in the way I can do it.
Yeah.
I think, like, that's why I think there's just so many people like, that's overdone. That's overdone in the way you've done it. And that's what I often kind of pitch. Like, there's just so many things that are, yeah, we don't need to see an Everest ice spear. We've seen it. But like, doesn't mean you don't need to see another representation of who can go to Everest. Like some
Right.
things can still be really interesting. And so I'm just trying to show, I think so much of photography, and especially outdoors, it mirrors who you're around. And so it's very natural for, say, certain photographers to show their friends, and that's a
Hmm.
mirror of their kind of community and how they experience the outdoors. I think the only thing that's novel is that how I may be experiencing it might be a little bit different. And I see by being I'm often can be the only Black person with a particular group, but and I see the way they do it, but like when I'm with my friends and it's way more people of color, we're experiencing it in a much different way and it's a bit more nuanced because sometimes the win is just being there. Like you got to a place if you haven't historically been welcome to at all. And like, or it took a lot for you to get there. If you think about it, like if there's certain like national parks or whatever, like a lot of Black families don't have a history of going because it was unsafe. And so why can't we ruffle in that we're reclaiming the place, reclaiming that spot and being able to be there and be joyous while there should
Yeah.
really be a part of the narrative. And that's all that I'm just trying to illuminate. Not all, but I want to show people being able to do rad things, and being elite at whatever they do. But I just don't think that's the end all be all, like some others.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. So you have a lot of work to do because the way looking at the world through your eyes, it's a whole new world, right? Because it's I think of Lewis and Clark, right? Sort of traveling across the United States, and now yeah, there was a path, and now you're from in L's view, it's like yeah, there's a path, but instead of looking left on that path, I'm going to look right on that path. There's a different perspective to show along that path. I think that's brilliant. I hadn't thought about that like that. Okay, so what about like once you're back from the trip? What does that look like? So you got your memory card full of images. You're excited to look at them because you've only seen them on the back of the camera. What is it? What's the flow? Like what are you doing? Are you? And I think one of the bases and the hidden meaning in my question is the this Skylum software. They're kind of leaning into helping people that don't necessarily want to become 10-year Photoshop experts, making 35,000 layers and channels and, frequency separations and all that stuff. I want to hear like what you do, because from what you say, it sounds like you don't necessarily want to get into the technicalities of all the editing stuff, or do you? Does that excite you as much as the outdoor stuff?
I think the magic is in the editing. I do. I do think, because I don't know if everyone, I see from modeling and like outdoor stuff, not everyone knows how to capture darker skin tones well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I did a whole show on that. Yep.
And so I'm hoping, like, I think, like Insecure really highlights how good you can do, how much better people could do with highlighting darker skin tones in film and or on TV and television. And like, not that I'm trying to be elite at that, but I'm really mindful that people want to look like they're glowing. People want to look like they look good and showing that part. And so I think when I'm editing, I am editing for like being really mindful of skin tones. I think that's really important to me, because everyone wants to feel their best and beautiful. And I'm also recognizing, like, through my work, people can get modeling contracts or not, like, get contacted. And so I want to show them in the best light, because this is the first time they may be being shown in a good picture.
Yeah.
And so that means something to me. But when I get home from a trip, like, I look at all the files, and I go for the ones that are the most fun. I don't go for all the grimaces. And I think I go to the one that reminds me of the trip, and I go for like a variety. And I keep it that simple, and I kind of edit. And I have my own settings, and I correct and put all those settings on there. And I tend to study what I'm doing. And so a recent thing I did was trail running. And so I'm a big runner, and I got all my friends that I run with on a shoot for a major technical brand. And I did it, and like, we just kind of went out. They wanted to get sponsored by the brand, and like, I was like, let's see if I can make something happen. And I went and showed what I think running was to us, and I studied what other running, what it looks like, and that's not what running is to me. And so, like, there's just so many shots that are just like, like, you need another Alp shot that's kind of wide angle, and someone's like running hard, and like they're just a really similar shot all the time. And so I'll get very few of those. And then really I recognize, I was like, if someone's coming to me, they're probably coming for who I know and my eye. And so I'll just I try to do what I do, and hopefully the brand is into it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic, and it looks, it comes full circle, right? Because you talk about in your post processing trying to make darker skin tones look the best, or look the best that they can look, right? And just sort of leaning into that, where traditionally that hasn't happened. Same thing on the capture side, right? You were talking about getting shots from your perspective that haven't been done before. So you're getting shots that haven't been done before, that haven't told your view of the story or our view of the story, and then taking it into the computer and editing them properly, right? So now you have that full flow all the way through. That is awesome. I hadn't thought about that.
It's untraditional, I've been told. because
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give it to this. I give it to the editor at the brand, and I was like, "Hey, I'm happy to give you the raws on the one you select because I know my editing style is going to be different. But this is how I would love to see these skin tones illuminated. It's pretty much how I
Nice.
leave it.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. And you're kind of an authority, right? So by
I mean, what can
default.
they say? I don't know. And then and I definitely had a photo review with that brand this early this week, and he was like, "These were so different." I was like, "I know."
You know what? Yeah, we gotta, talk about the fact that you do have an unfair advantage, in everything you're doing because good looking model knows how to shoot and write stories to go along with it. You have strategy and you got your powerhouse, right? You got like you're a 12-cylinder engine. So
I
you kind
mean,
of have to do this stuff.
I'm trying to be. I'm trying my best. I think people may not realize that I've been on the radar for like 2 years. I started commercial in 2018, early 2018, and I didn't quite know what I was truly doing because I got some opportunities that came kind of quick. Um,
Hmm.
and but they were quick but super intermittent, and so I didn't really have access to full gear until it was rented because I was like, why would
Yeah.
I buy it
Yeah.
if I'm only getting a few opportunities per year, and so it doesn't make sense. Um, and this year, and I had a catalog of stuff that I've been doing, and I put my own money into it to produce it because people weren't as into it. And so it wasn't until this year that all of a sudden, like, hey, now people want to knock and people are way more interested. But I just
Yeah.
had been doing it just because I wanted to tell my perspective and how I just want to tell my own perspective. And I think I have a point of view that I think is salient for me and my personality and how I'd like to highlight people.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's your personality and that killer smile, right? That opens up all those doors. so, so people, that's the magnetic smile. I was looking at your Instagram, and boom, there you go. It's perfect. So that is cool. So then, what's coming up next for L Blunt? What can we expect to see? Coming on your Instagram, your website, or even career wise. What do you hope to be or hope to do by this time? Say next year.
Well, I mean, this year was a complete unknown. Like I
Yeah,
moved
for
back
sure.
from New York. The CEO of the consulting firm I was at was like, "You should try going out on your own. Like you don't know." And then I got a deal, and I was like, "All right," because I just wanted to be able to. I thought I'd go in house for like a tech company, to be honest, because
Hmm.
innovation is very researchy. And I thought I'd go in house and then do the same stuff I was doing in New York way easily just on the weekends, and then still get on a campaign or two a year. Like everything that's happened this year has happened way quicker, and so than I anticipated. And so for me, it's been really learning and getting a way more. I like to do research in everything I do and talk to a lot of people, especially the people that are doing things at a really high level or have or have a point of view of where I can go that's interesting. So right now I've been like seeing what are the possibilities because when it comes to like kind of the outdoor world, I've just been on the outside looking in. I only got I just got just a few, or I was producing my own stuff and trying to
Yeah.
sell it. And so so people knew who I was a little bit, and so I didn't have like I had some confidence, but I didn't have like the confidence was like, oh yeah, 2020 fall, I'm going to be out on my own doing consulting and storytelling work. I didn't think it would happen like this soon, and I'm still learning it. I mean, I did a bit of research before I went and decided to take to break away from what I was doing in New York. Like, I definitely did some research, and knew a bit about the industry for the last 2 years. But
Yep.
to be honest, by next year, I'm not sure because so many things have much more opportunities have come my way where it's kind of like made me rethink about what's possible because I didn't know
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
It makes 100% sense because the a bunch of doors have opened up, and there's bright light behind them. You don't know what's over there, so you got to kind of just sort of take it day by day and adjust as things come your way. And yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so I
you're
didn't know if lean to going in house and like still how can I want to keep the strategy element of what I'm doing. Like
hmm
I think that's important, especially like being the athlete and the model stuff. Um, I don't believe most people like that. That has a finite amount of time, and so like most people are not going to be like the cute young thing that smiles a lot forever. And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
how am I thinking in like the next 3 to 5 years, and how am I pushing that element of my work? And um, I kind of believe like I don't know. I see who's able to give people opportunities and how can I be in that position.
Yeah.
And I always like whether that's continuing to work for myself or be on some type of executive track. I definitely see myself as some type of executive. I don't know how it'll manifest.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we will see. We will keep an eye on you. I have a feeling that you're aiming low, right? Some type of executive. I think founder, and you like start something brand new that is you versus you going to help someone else fulfill their dream, right? So
Yeah, that's interesting because I've been talking to a founder and just trying to learn from him. And like, it's like, can we have like regular conversations? And just getting more mentors because certain things weren't open to me before.
mhm.
Um, and so for me, it's like, I feel uh, like it's hard to know sometimes of course you can say anything is possible, but without exposure, I don't think you truly know the breadth or the depth of
Absolutely.
what's available.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at you. You've done 2 podcasts in 48 hours. So look at that. Look at that. How is that? So now you're a veteran podcast guest. So,
I don't think so. Not quite yet. There's,
well,
I mean, that's
you're
the
getting
first
there.
part of you. Like, I was like, you have a great ability of interviewing and you make people feel comfortable, just in the things that I've seen. So,
Thank you.
like, um, I like, yeah, but yeah, I don't like, I'm still learning
If
and
you
getting
want to know anything, I'm here to chat with you, and give you whatever nuggets I can share. Yeah, so this is interesting. Thank you for doing this. And it's inspiring to hear you talk about that stuff, like the perspective you opened up when we had our first conversation. Opened up a bunch of perspectives in my head that I hadn't really probably considered fully enough, probably considered them, but didn't really, kind of give it the thought that I needed to. And, even in this conversation, it's your enthusiasm is infectious, right? And it's very interesting, and kind of exciting to think about, yeah, you kind of have superpowers because it's a whole, from a photographer standpoint, it's a whole world of perspectives that haven't been told in a certain way, right? And it's a fertile ground that needs to be harvested, and you need to get out there and harvest it. Get out there with your camera and have fun and tell your stories, right?
Yeah, and if I could say to anyone, I think
Yeah,
everything has the power to be redone because no one's seen it from your point of view. And
yeah,
so, especially if your point of view is quite a bit different, like I think
yeah.
Yosemite, all these most popular places, you just reminded. There's a lot of versions that we haven't seen that could be really refreshing and really cool to reclaim.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like there's just so much stuff. Especially Yosemite was like, you know, the first park rangers there were the Buffalo Soldiers. There's a history of blackness there, and
Oh
people don't
wow,
know that.
I didn't know that. See, you're educating me. All right, Elle, for the final question. This one's going to be tough, so brace yourself. when you're out on one of your climbing or running adventures or outdoors adventures, taking pictures, enjoying yourself, what's the craziest thing that has happened while you've been out and about doing your thing?
Uh, to be honest, okay, I was on, it's a brand that's a little bit more lifestyle. And so I was modeling and doing the B-roll. So I wasn't the lead photo. Um, and we were in the Virgin Islands at the only place you can climb there. And I thought there were docks that you like put the boat in. Like you had to, it was like a really crazy logistical thing to get there. And I see why there's like very few people that have climbed there. But to be there, you had to float the equipment in on the crash pads, and it was awful. And so you have thousands of dollars of equipment, and this is a big brand. And it's just floating in. And so I'm on like air, like if you couldn't swim, you wouldn't be able to do this shoot. Like it was like, I assumed I was like, yeah, where's the dock? And they were like, there is no docks. Like you really had to swim in and it's like no drive. And so you could tell the brand, also the producer, also there was like one or two dry bags. And so everything had to be retransported and carefully. And that was probably pretty wild because
That's good.
knowing the amount of equipment that was because there was a videographer, there was the photographer, and then there was the lead, and there was my equipment. And I got told, because they rented some of my equipment. They were like, you could just leave that on the boat. Like, because the other person's equipment got messed up. Like a lens got messed up. It was so hot and humid that it like fogged the lens internally. But it was a fun trip overall. But
Yeah, that sounds very Navy SEAL training.
I mean, there's just pictures of us like floating the stuff in, and like there was no hair and makeup. Like you were just wet. Like you just had to wait till it dried. And
In humid weather.
yeah, it was like 90 degrees. It was hot. The boat captain guy, he was like, "This is it." And I was like, "Oh," and we looked real underprepared, even though I think for the most part people were prepared. We just assumed that there was docks.
Yeah, yeah. Next time, one word: helicopter.
Or like, we had to go figure out how to get dinghies to roll to get to because you can't park the boat close to the shore. Like the bigger some of the.
That's why the Marines have those amphibious landers where they could just roll up right on the shore and open the front and run out, right? So
I think that was the wildest thing is swimming into the chute.
educating me. I love it. I love it. Cool. All right, Elle. Well, thank you for doing this show again, and thank you for doing this on such short notice. You are fantastic again. If people want to follow you, they want to connect with you, they want to check out your Instagram or your website or connect with you for strategy or, corporate stuff, what's the best place for them to go?
Sure. They can go to my website, which is lrblount, BLOUNT.com, and that'll take you over to you can see a little bit of my innovation work, and you can see a lot of my brand work. There's links to that, and I'm on Instagram at urbanclimr. I'll come up super quick.
Got it. All right, I'm taking notes. All right, well, thank you so much for doing this, and good luck in everything you're working on, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me again, and I totally didn't mind on the short notice. I'm happy to always speak. Thank you.